If you hurt her, I'll make you suffer. You what? If you hurt her, I'll make you suffer. Make you suffer. Make you suffer.
Jesus Christ.
In a perfect world, with the success of Neversoft's Spider-Man, Activision would have put a little more care with Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, and it would have been a massive success. With that success, there would have been enough copies sold to make a third entry and closed off the Neversoft run with a trilogy. Like I said, this is if we lived in a perfect world. That unfortunately did not happen. I will say that there was a third game in talks, but Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro didn't get the sales Activision was hoping for. What the hell were they gonna do? Well, lucky for Activision, Sam Raimi stepped in and said, "Hey Bubs, I want to make a Spider-Man movie and it's going to kick some ass." And on May 3rd of 2002, the world witnessed the legendary first entry of his Spider-Man trilogy. This isn't a movie review though, so I'm not going to be spending a lot of time on how much this film impacted my life, but this movie changed me from a boy to a slightly bigger boy. But I'd like to say I grew into a man. The first Spider-Man was a massive success, and Activision made a mess in their pants when they found an easy way out of their dilemma. Who cares about a third installment to an original comic book story when you can piggyback a loosely based game about the movie? And that's exactly what they did, and I was young and ignorant enough to buy in on it all and not care. Now let me make this clear, I don't hate the movie tie-in games. There are a few in this list that I have a very fond memory of, and this one is actually one of those, but it certainly doesn't compare to Spider-Man by Neversoft. Today, we are swinging down memory lane and critically analyzing Spider-Man, the movie tie-in game of Spider-Man. If you haven't already, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all the Spider-Man content planned in preparation of Marvel's Spider-Man 2. The history of this game is very short. Of course, the time it took to develop this game was very short as well. Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro was released the year before. Of course, that game was by Vicarious Visions and this one by Treyarch. It could have taken a little over a year, maybe a year and a half to develop this game. It depends on how long they knew about the Raimi film to begin with. The thing about this game you'd find cool is Spider-Man and Green Goblin both being voiced by their movie actors, Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe. You'd think that'd be a good thing, but when you play the game you will find that the voice acting is very dry and not enthusiastic whatsoever, and played a part in a negative on the game's perception after release. The voices were originally going to be voice acted by Josh Keaton and John Delancey. They read the full script before Tobey and Willem signed on. At least Keaton got the role as Harry Osborn. Lastly, my favorite little piece of history and trivia. During the first pressings of the game, there was a cheat code where you could play the game in a skin of Mary Jane Watson. The crazy part is the fact that it raised controversy due to the game allowing lesbians kissing in a cutscene between the player and original Mary Jane. It was then removed from the game after parents complaining. I'll go ahead and throw it out that I don't see an issue with this considering they're the same character models, and plus, looks pretty cool. Oh, yeah. Like I said earlier in the video, this game is loosely based from the Sam Raimi film. What does that mean exactly? It means this is the most bare bones relation to the film, and even with the set pieces and characters and similar scenes as the movie, the outcomes are completely different. Instead of rehashing the whole story, I'm just going to point out the actual differences of the game and the film. Starting off at number 1, in the game, Uncle Ben's killer is a member of a gang of thugs called the Skulls. A generic-looking biker gang that's basically the thugs from Neversoft's Spider-Man with a fresh coat of paint. In the movie, the thug apparently operates alone, and you find in Spider-Man 3 he's not really the killer, but the killer's accomplice. Also, the killer's name is Spike, which is really generic and not the same name as you'll find out in Spider-Man 3. Next up, Norman Osborn feels Spider-Man is the key to completing Oscorp's human performance enhancers. With those thoughts in mind, he decides to send hunting killer drones to capture him. We of course do not see that happen in the movie at all, and Parker and Osborn get their powers around the same time. We also have a difference in timing with Norman getting his powers in the movie. Norman gets his powers before getting fired, and in the game, he gets fired before getting his powers. This next difference is okay. I can see why they would make a little change like this, no matter how unnecessary it is. When Spider-Man has to save Mary Jane, in the movie she is on a crumbling building, but in the game she is on top of a giant balloon. I'm assuming they just thought it would be cooler with her on a floating balloon. And I agree. Coming up next, Norman never finds out who Spider-Man is in the game. The only reason he kidnaps Mary Jane is because one of his bots snap a picture of her kissing Spider-Man. How convenient. In the movie, there are no bots, and Norman finds out Parker is the webhead. Lastly, the final fight is completely different. The movie is a lot more entertaining, naturally, and has a few fighting set pieces, while in the game, it's just on the Queensboro Bridge. Just before Norman dies, the film says not to tell Harry, but the game says to tell Harry he's sorry. What the hell, Norman? Make up your damn mind. Those are the differences I found interesting and wanted to point out. There are a few minor ones, like Oscorp having a bigger role to incorporate more levels in the game, and having extra villains as well that weren't in the film altogether. That's what I want to focus on next. The Rogues Gallery in this game were really stacked. We see villains from older games with the updated designs, and we see a couple new ones as well. I'm going to list each one and tell you my thoughts. The first boss is, of course, Spike, and it's whatever. I could care less about it. All you do is go through boxes and sneak close enough to land some hits while dodging his gunshots. The next boss is where it gets interesting with our boy Shocker. This was a fun one as you dodge his vibroblast on the train tracks, and once you get to the actual boss battle, he has a really cool ability where he spins and creates a tornado around him. I thought that was pretty cool. The next boss fight was a personal favorite, and that was Vulture. You were traversing through this clock tower, and once you get to the top, he pieces himself out the window. You have to catch up to him, and it can be a little difficult if you're new to the game. I remember having a time getting to him, and once you do, the whole boss fight is in the air. It's pretty cool. After that, you're up against Scorpion again, and I personally love the updated look. His robotic exosuit works, and it uses the same colors from the Neversoft game. Much respect. Then, of course, it's the Goblin. Now, let's just talk about some random little tidbits about the game here. There are some extra fun additions to the game, such as playing in the Green Goblin suit. It looks a little bit weird, but if that's something you wanted to do, you definitely could. And let's not forget the iconic narration voiced by the classic Bruce Campbell. I think that was my favorite part about these games, just hearing Bruce help us be Spider-Man. I thought that was pretty awesome. I do have a major negative, and that is the soundtrack. This soundtrack is god-awful, and I could not stand it. It's like they didn't even try and found generic music online to use. I just don't see how you can go from the music from the other two games, which were totally badass, to this piss-poor level of quality. It beats me. I mean, it is awful. Another negative was some of the level designs. They looked bland and uninspiring as well. Some may like it, but the levels just didn't feel very fun. It's like they just needed to have extra content to make the game feel a little bit longer. Spider-Man the game is something I spent a lot of time playing, and when I was a kid, I was blown away at the graphical enhancements. It felt like the classic Spider-Man games on the PlayStation 1, but so much prettier and expanded upon with the gameplay. From adding additional hits to your combo chains to better web swinging mechanics. Granted, you're still swinging on the hands of Uncle Ben, but that's okay. That changes in the next title. Hearing Tobey Maguire's voice at the time was awesome, and in my young mind, I felt like I was actually playing the hero from the movie. I loved this so much, but listening to it now is just completely wonky. Spider-Man basically says he's going to kill the Green Goblin in this game, and he wasn't even wearing the black suit. The Rogues Gallery was strong and the enemies were fun as well. The only problem was the layout of the levels. They didn't feel interesting enough, and mixing that with the terrible soundtrack leaves me bored in today's standards. I give Spider-Man the game a C. It's not the worst, but it's just the first of many movie tie-in games for our wall crawler. Have you played this Spider-Man game? Let me know your favorite part in the comments down below, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on videos like this in the future. And until next time, take it easy, bubs.
Make you suffer.